What does good trouble mean for you? Like when you hear good trouble, how do you understand that?
So I would say, Congressman John Lewis is someone who I've had the most profound admiration for. And having the opportunity to meet him in Selma, I can say without a doubt, fundamentally changed how I envision my life and my purpose. And I would encourage all of you to read his last essay that was published in the New York Times after his death. It is a powerful affirmation that making good trouble is something that all of us have an obligation to commit to. That you can't claim that you love this country and not be willing to do the work of making it better in ways that affirm your views, that affirm your values, and affirm our connection to one another. That's good trouble, of being willing to step outside of your comfort zone, of being willing to fight for something that is bigger than you are, and of being willing to commit to something that you may not see the realization of in your lifetime. But good trouble is about making that path clearer for those who are yet to come.
I just think, again, I mean, the same thing as pretty much what you said, getting out your comfort zone and like testing the status quo and knowing that sometimes it's worth causing a little friction in order to elicit change, and just, I guess, being confident in that. You're not gonna come across everyone that views the same thing that you view. And if that's the only kind of people you're hanging around, I guess that's probably not very challenging to your own views anyways.
So I'm curious, because the way that I interpret good trouble is pretty much doing what's right, regardless of what it might have, but you know internally that it's the right thing to do, even if it's against the rules, but like you're trying to make a positive change. That's the way I interpret it. And you said you served, right? So if, like, let's say you were handed like direct orders and you knew internally that it wasn't the right thing to do, like where do you like kind of like stand on the idea of good trouble?
You're taught in the military, whatever they ask you to do is what you're doing. I'm not saying that if they told me to do something that I know is obviously would normally be illegal for everyone else, I'm just gonna go do it. But there's rules and regulations that say what are lawful orders and what are not.
Think about the officer who was aware that there was a COVID outbreak on the ship and went against the chain of command in order to keep other people safe, right? Left this distinguished military career because he felt it was worth the risk of saving people's lives, of protecting their lives, even if it meant putting his own career and his own livelihood at risk. Those are the kinds of questions that I think people are more likely to face in an everyday way, so that good trouble doesn't have to be this grand proclamation, doesn't have to be about, I'm going to take down this entire structure, but in those sort of quiet, everyday, mundane choices that you're faced with, are you willing to take the risk because you understand what's at stake?
And I think, when we talk about good trouble, thinking about John Lewis, like his life was like putting others before himself, but also understanding his connection to a greater good, right? And so that's what I think of when I think of good trouble, that it's stepping out there, knowing that I'm doing the right thing, even if it doesn't necessarily directly benefit me, but I understand my connection to you as a human, and what I want for me, I should also want for you. And if that takes me having to protest, if that takes me not taking an opportunity because it's not the right thing to do, I think those are those little moments where we make those decisions to practice good trouble. Understanding that like we all have this purpose and that we're all connected by this fragile thread of humanity, and that I should want the goodness that I want for myself, for other people as well, right? And so I think that's the thing that keeps us focused and leads us to this space of practicing a little good trouble.